Donald Trump stopped virtually all refugees from coming to the United States, right? I mean, after all, we are flooded and we don't have the judges to process those people that are looking for asylum or anything like that. But guess what? Guess what? As reported by the New York Times, something fantastical has happened. Something great has happened. Trump officials seek to bring first white Afrikaners to U.S. as refugees next week. Who are Afrikaners? Afrikaners are the white settlers of South Africa who went and colonized South Africa, took people's lands and made it their own, and had these people living in a system called apartheid, where they had no rights in their own land of birth, in the lands that is of their own. That's who these people are. But anyhow, because of some changes within land ownership in that country, South Africans are screaming that South African, the Afrikaners, which are the white South Africans, are screaming discrimination. Remember, these are the people who went into this land and started a process called apartheid, which took away all rights away from the original folks there, the black folks. So here we go. The Trump administration is planning to bring the first group of white South Africans it has classified as refugees to the United States on Monday, according to officials briefed on the plans and documents obtained by the New York Times. Although the president halted virtually all other refugee admissions shortly after he took office in January, his administration hastily put together a program to allow in white South Africans who he claims have been the victims of racial persecution in their home country. So the people who went into South Africa dominated the country. 7% of these people put 93% of these people in bondage, meaning no rights, kicked out of all lands that they had into something called the Bantustans. They are now the victims. The administration plans to send government officials to Washington Dulles International Airport in Virginia for an event marking the arrival of the South Africans who belong to the white minority Afrikaner ethnic group, according to a memo from the Department of Human Services. Look, many Afrikaners say they are denied jobs, targeted by criminals, and ignored by the government because of their race. Mr. Trump's support of Afrikaners dates back to his first term, but this year he came to their side after South Africa's president enacted a law allowing the government to seize land from private owners without providing compensation in rare instances. Stephen Miller, Mr. Trump's deputy chief of staff and the architect of his immigration agenda, told reporters outside the White House on Friday that what's happening in South Africa fits the textbook definition of why the refugee program was created. He added, "This is persecution based on protected characteristics, in this case, race. This is race-based persecution." So when other people come over from other countries, the global South, that have where the minority culture have them in bondage and they run over to the United States, that's a problem. We don't have open doors for them. We don't send airplanes to that country to bring them over. I mean, think about these special refugees. America is going to use all of our tax dollars to go out to South Africa and fly those refugees into the United States in a very dignified fashion. Many of our brothers and sisters from the global South, they walk through the Darién jungle in Panama that is very hard to cross. They walk through Guatemala, they walk through Honduras, they walk through Mexico in dire straits. Walk thousands of miles to get to the United States. And when they get to our border, some took boats from Haiti into South America and then walked the trail up to America. And when they came to America, this is how they were greeted. DHS says some Border Patrol agents use unnecessary force on Haitians at Texas border. Look at that picture. Watch our Border Patrol agents on horses with whips, demonizing, dehumanizing these refugees that are running from similar things that these South Africans claim they are, even though their claims are not true. These people's claims from Haiti, these people claim from Venezuela, these people's claims from many of these other countries are true. They are real refugees. White South Africans are not refugees. But we are going to send taxpayer planes to bring them into our country, and we are going to get them resettled. How are we going to do that again? Check this out. The resettlement of refugees is normally funded in large part by the State Department. But Mr. Trump suspended that program when he took office. But for the white South Afrikaners, so the administration will be relying on other agencies that has traditionally supported refugees. A refugee office in the Department of Health and Human Services. The office has been reaching out to organizations assisting refugees in the recent days to prepare them for the arrival of Afrikaners, according to a department memo by the Times. Special treatment. They're going to get the roses and the petals to come into our country. The Lever reported this week on the imminent arrival of Afrikaners in the United States, and the administration planned to use emergency refugee funds to assist them. The administration is preparing to help the Afrikaners find temporary or longer-term housing and basic home furnishings, essential household items, and cleaning supplies, according to the memo. The administration is also planning to help the Afrikaners secure groceries, weather-appropriate clothing, diapers, formula, hygiene products, and prepared phones that support the day-to-day well-being of households, the memo said. Wow. The Trump administration should be ashamed that these memos leak, but they wanted this memo to leak because they think there's a segment of the American population that is going to say, yes, bring those Afrikaners in and dump those people south of the border from the world south, from the majority south. Now, before we close here, many are going to try to make that excuse that, well, what's happening in South Africa is now that South Africa is taking away the people's lands. Let's get the truth out there, though. That's not what's happening, okay? According to Al Jazeera, and good reporting, last month, South Africa adopted the Expropriation Act, a law helping the state take back land that is in the public interest, with agreement to address disparities in ownership that were caused by decades of racist apartheid rule. And we covered that earlier on. Remember, apartheid were foreigners going into South Africa, throwing the people who own the land off the land, taking their land, and forcing them into these things called Bantustan. Okay, they threw them onto bad lands. That's how we got places like Soweto and other places in South Africa. Ramaphosa defended the law, explaining that it serves to facilitate public access to land rather than act as of confiscation instrument. South Africa, like the United States of America and other countries, has always had expropriation laws that balance the need for public usage of land and the protection of rights of property owners. Ramaphosa, that's president, elaborated in a statement following Trump's statement. Now, the Expropriation Act was signed into law by Ramaphosa in January. It would make it easier for the state to expropriate some land with the aim of addressing racial disparities in ownership after apartheid in 1994. South Africa's government says the law does not allow it to expropriate property arbitrarily and that the landowner must reach an agreement. The government asserts that the law enables a constitutionally mandated legal process and that it allows for expropriation without compensation in circumstances deemed just and equitable and in the public interest. And I can give a good example of what that should be. Suppose some Führer comes into South Africa and he looked at all those huge mountains across South Africa and he says, I claim that land is mine. And he takes over 100,000 acres and he deemed it his and makes sure, because they ruled in an apartheid system, that land is his or hers. I don't see why the government should, the government should say that guy really owns that land, the land that he took for free, one that he just commanded that I own. The hysteria about expropriation is mischievous, he said. emphasizing that the law does not allow for land grabs as alleged. Nduketobi explained that Act permits nil compensation for land deemed necessary for the public good, which may include properties that is unused or poses risk to the public. Think about it. You come into a foreign country, you conquer it, and you say, those mountains are mine. The government may say, no, that's a natural resource that should belong to everybody. How can you come into this land and just say it's yours? You can't. That will be expropriated justifiably. The mischief has been misrepresentation, as if to say expropriation has never happened. Guess who expropriate lands? Right here in the United States. Oil companies want to build pipelines across farmland, and there's something called eminent domain. Right here in the United States, eminent domain has been used to take the land of many a farmer. Eminent domain with poor compensation have been used to take the land of many a black farmer, etc., in this country under the guise of some sort of constitutionality. Let's be clear. Those white South Afrikaners are not refugees. They are not refugees. And let's be clear. What is the history of land disposition in South Africa? The disposition of people from their lands, here it is, particularly black and indigenous people, was a core feature of South Africa's history, deeply intertwined with the country's brutal apartheid regime and preceding years of colonialism. A pivotal law, the Natives Act of 1913, restricted black South Africans from purchasing or renting land in designated white South Africa, resulting in the forced removal of indigenous population. So a Afrikaner can say, I declare that land mine. Okay, it's mine. Now I'm kicking off all you black folks that were indigenous to this land. Get away. It's ours, and they throw you into what's called a Bantustan. South Africa's government had grappled with land ownership issues since the advent of democracy in 1994, with land reform discussions becoming increasingly relevant in political discourse. White South Africans made up a little over 7% of the population, according to the latest census, but they own more than 70% of all privately owned farmland in the country, according to the government data in 2017. The ongoing disparities in land ownership, which remain skewed largely in favor of a minority, have brought a need for reform and expropriation, experts say. That should not even be debatable. I mean, when South Africa got out of the bondage of apartheid, everybody thought it was going to be a bloodbath for the oppressor. Instead, they created not a conference, but they created a reconciliation panel, and people got to live their lives, and people got to beg for atonement for what had been done. And there was no retribution, no killings, no any of that based on racial animosities or anything like that. It was one of the best transitions from an oppressive, racist system to a system where you had true democracy. In fact, the South African Constitution makes a mockery, makes our Constitution look, well, the age that it really is, because of how well written it is. Now, because again, we have a property document for a constitution. They have a constitution that takes humanity, the environment, and everything into consideration. Now, here's the deal. Donald Trump bringing these folks to America is a message. It is a message, and it's a racial message. The treatment, the catering to these Afrikaners who claim to be, or seeking asylum because of some sort of oppression, which isn't true, compared our Haitian brothers and sisters, our south of the border brothers and sisters from Venezuela, from Cuba, from other places that really have issues. It shows the difference in treatment, and it is quite clear. This is what we're up against, and this is what must be mitigated. A president like this remaining in power is a clear and present danger. He is putting us in a case where nothing good can come of this other than creating the animosities we've been trying to solve for centuries. Shame on Donald Trump for allowing or for listening to Elon Musk, a South African himself, who is a bastion of lies like the president is, to promote and teach this president a false history based on his own apartheid-loving self.
We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead, number one, subscribe to our channel, and number two, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.